How's everybody doing? My name is Wayne Barron and welcome to my channel. Hope everybody is doing well. You saw the title, so let's go ahead and jump into it. So around 2000, I built my first web server with the help of a friend of mine named Jamie Barcher. So he came over to the house and we built this server, which back then you paid a lot of money for not a lot of stuff. And this is right at the very beginning of everybody doing home labs and stuff like that. And so I wanted to build a server so that I could host websites. And my primary goal was to host a music-related website. I'm a huge music fan, and so I wanted to do something that related to music. And so I built my first server with the help of Jamie, and I built it with a Windows NT 4.0 server, software from Microsoft, and with the IIS package. So about maybe 6 months later, Jamie gave me a call and asked me how everything was going. And we had been talking a lot off and on throughout this time. I'd give him a call, ask him questions on how to do certain things. Not a lot of information was available back then online like there is today. And so Jamie was my main person that I would call to ask questions about how to do certain things within NT 4.0. And so he gave me a call one night and he asked me how everything was going. And I told him, I was like, well, I would like to do some sort of a networking so that I can connect all my computers together. He said, well, what you want to do is that you want to do a domain. I said, okay. I was like, what is a domain? So he explained that to me. And he told me that I needed to go out to get a domain name. I needed to buy a domain name so that I could host the domain. However, this information was incorrect. It was a good thing, but it was incorrect. So let me explain what, there's two different types of domains. You have the internal domain, then you have the external domain. The external domain is youtube.com. google.com, facebook.com, and so forth. And then you have the internal domain. The internal domain is something that cannot be accessed from outside of your network. So the internal domain is a .local that you do not have to purchase, that you can create anything you want. So anyway, so I go out and I purchase my first domain name, which was carrz-fox-fire.com. So let me break that down for you. My son's name is Carr Barron. He is named after Eric Carr, the late drummer from Kiss. Eric Carr used the makeup of a fox. So that was his persona in Kiss, was the fox. So carrz, C-A-R-R-Z, is my son's name. And then the Z comes from the other part of his middle name, which is carrz, or carr-zadian. So instead of having a dash between the Carr and the Z, I just put them two together, and then I added a dash between the fox and the fire. And so the fox came from Eric Carr, and then the fire was just something I thought was really cool. So carrz-fox-fire.com was my first domain name. So I got that, and then I installed it, or not installed it, well, sort of. I installed it within my DNS, and then I created my first domain within my network, and then I was able to also create my first domain name to where people can access it from the internet. So about a year later, so 2001, sometime around there, I got into designing software for Windows. And I was using a program called Borland Delphi. And with this, I joined several news groups and several forums. And a lot of people were asking for beta testers. And so I jumped on board. I thought it was really cool to be able to beta test people's software before anybody else had an opportunity to see it. Over a year, I did a lot of beta testing for a lot of software developers within the Delphi community. Well, then during this time, I created several email accounts under my carrz-fox-fire.com account or domain. And so I needed a program that I could actually have all of these email addresses in one place. And so I went out and I found one by a organization called Mozilla. And the program, if I'm not mistaken, is the same name as it is now back then, which was Thunderbird. And so I downloaded and installed the mail program, the mail client, and then I was able to add in all of my email accounts. I think I had maybe 4 or 5. So that made everything a lot easier. And because I was getting in a bunch of emails for Delphi, along with my primary email account, which I dealt with Microsoft, because I was also communicating with some of the Microsoft tech guys during the Windows 2000 days. And I wasn't a beta tester or anything like that from Microsoft, but I would give them a call and I would talk to certain technicians because I knew exactly when they worked and I had the direct line to give them a call. You can't do that today. Everything's way different today than what it was back then. Now let's fast forward a little ways more, and I had gone on to the Mozilla website to check out their forum. And whenever I went on and I signed up on their forum, I found out that they were also doing beta testing. At this same time, I was also using their Mozilla web browser, and I loved it because it had tabbed interface. It was the only one that I knew of at the time that was running a tabbed interface. And my main web browser at the time was Windows Internet Explorer, Microsoft Internet Explorer. And that one was not tabbed. So you would open up a new page and it would open up a new instance of Internet Explorer. So I went on to the Mozilla forum one day and found out that they had a new software that they wanted people to beta test. It was a new web browser. And so I jumped on board and I downloaded the new software. And it was the same as the Mozilla browser, except it was a lot different, but still it was the same. And it was tabbed. And so I ran the new Mozilla web browser for probably about maybe 6 months, beta testing it for them. Reported in probably 10 to 12 issues, and which they were resolved pretty quickly. So Mozilla stayed on top of the beta testers pretty well. So then I jump on to the forum one day, and they had a new thread or a new post, and the new thread was, help us name the new web browser. So I clicked on it, opened it up. So after reading all the other people's suggestions and laughing a few times, I decided to suggest one. And pretty much what I said was I would suggest Foxfire. However, that is too close to my company name of carrz-fox-fire Promotions. However, you can switch it around and name it Firefox. And I left it at that. Didn't bother with it no more. So about 3 days later, I was talking to my father over the phone, and I told him about, because he knew that I was beta testing software for many, many different people and companies. And so he asked me how the beta testing was going, and I told him, I said, it's going pretty good. And I told him about the naming of the new web browser that I was beta testing. And I told him that I suggested Firefox, and that it was just switched around from Foxfire. He said, are you sure you wanted to do that? And I was like, well, why? He was like, well, are you sure they're going to give you credit for it? And then I told him, I said, I sure hope so. And I was like, but I says, I'm not going to cross my fingers and hope that they use the name. So let's fast forward many, many months later. I don't know exactly how long it had been, but my father gave me a call and he says, did you see the new episode of Tech TV? Well, Tech TV, I'll have it over here, but Tech TV was a channel on cable and satellite. And what it was is that they would talk about the new technologies that was out, new computers, new hardware, new software, new whatever. And they had different programs throughout the day. And what they would play in the morning into the afternoon, they would repeat that and play at nighttime. And so I asked my dad, I was like, no, I haven't seen it. Why? He told me, he says, well, he says, they released that new web browser that you suggested the name for. I said, they did? He was like, yeah. He said, Wayne, they used your name I was like, you're kidding. He was not, no. He's like, check it out this evening. So I got a phone with my dad, finished doing what I was doing, and then after my son and I ate dinner, I sat down and I watched Tech TV. And while watching Tech TV, that episode came on. I can't remember if it was on Screensavers or which one that it was on, but about halfway through it, they announced that Mozilla had released its new web browser, and it was named Firefox. And to be honest, I had mixed emotions. Number one, it was cool they used my name. Number two, why didn't they send me a message and say, hey man, we used the name that you suggested? So I jumped into my email, which was using the Mozilla Thunderbird, or whatever the client name was back then. And I did a search for the forum. And the only response, see, whenever you comment on a forum post or a thread, you're given the option on whether or not you want to receive updated emails whenever something is posted on that thread. And so I always made sure that it was checked so that I would receive these notifications. But there was no notifications whatsoever for the naming of the new web browser. And so I jumped onto the forum and I went through all the forum. I found all of the beta testing information. I found all of that, but I could not find a new thread or that thread for naming of the web browser. So I turned around and I sent an email to Mozilla. So I said, hello, this is Wayne Barron, and I'm the one that suggested Firefox. How come y'all never contacted me to let me know that y'all were going to use the name I suggested? And never received a response back from them. Well, after a while, I forgot about it. And the only time that I would ever think about it was whenever I had to install Firefox, because whenever you're designing websites, you can't design a website to work with one web browser. See, I was using Internet Explorer. That was my primary web browser, and it was the primary web browser of a majority of people running Windows. And so I would design it to work with Internet Explorer, and then I would find out that it would break on other web browsers, so then I would have to install them. And so the more web browsers that were added, the more changes I would have to make to the website. And it, to be honest with you, it's a mess. It would be nice if all the web browsers use the same functionality for being able to read data from the website, so that you don't have to do this and this and that whenever you're designing a website, because it becomes infuriating. So fast forward many years later, and my dad is, he told me, he was like, hey, have you heard anything from about Firefox? And I told him, I was like, no. He was like, well, he said, I use it. He said, I like it. He was like, I like using it because I know that you're the one that named it. And he was like, so every single time that somebody comes over to the house and I've got Firefox open, I always turn around and go, my son named this web browser. He was like, nobody believes me. He said, I don't care. He said, because I know the truth. And so then fast forward a little while later, and I started getting into doing this YouTube thing here. And so my dad tells me, he says, well, he said, you do YouTube now. Why don't you do a video on you naming Firefox and what Mozilla did to you? I said, that sounds like an idea. So I thought about it, and I sat down and I wrote a script. And this was years ago. This was probably about maybe 2015. And but I never did anything with it. I think I got busy with something else. And so, because in 2017, I was going to do it again then, but then I got involved in writing my first novel. And so for about 8 months out of 2017 was me writing my book. And then my son gives me a call. This was probably 2022. He gives me a call. He says, might have been 2023. I don't remember. But he gives me a call and he says, Daddy, he was like, and he's working at Food Lion. For people that are not in my area, Food Lion is a grocery store. So, but anyway, he gives me a call. He says, Daddy, he says, I got to do this thing online for my work. And guess what I have to install in order to do it? And I was like, don't tell me. Firefox. He was like, yeah. He was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to have to install that program because of what they did to you. I told him, I said, well, I said, it's for your work. So go ahead and install it, do what you got to do, and then after you're done, you can uninstall it. So that's what he did. And he stayed on the phone with me the entire time. He was at work whenever he was doing it. And so after he got finished, he called me, he said, well, he says, that's done. So he screwed it up and uninstalled it. Never installed it again. He never had to bother with it again. And so he tells me, he was like, why don't you do a video about this like Granddaddy told you? And I told him, I was like, I says, I'm thinking about it. I said, I wrote a script about it years ago. He said, yeah, I remember you doing that, but you never did a video on it. I told him, I said, yeah, so I just got to get in the right mood, the right mindset in order to do the video. And I don't want to go out trying to put out something that's going to end up being a bunch of crap. And so my father passed away summer 2020. And he passed away, I think he passed away of pneumonia, if I'm not mistaken. And so then in October the 12th of 2023, I lost my son. And so, so neither one of them are going to be able to see this video. Okay, anyway, so let's get back over here to Firefox. So if you go onto the Wikipedia page, you will see that they have on yonder the meaning behind the word Firefox. And it's a red panda. And so I guess Wayne Barron is a red panda. And it's kind of ironic. Okay, so my son was born in 93, October 16th of 93. And if you didn't catch on to it, he passed away 4 days before his 30th birthday. So anyway, so my son was born in 93, and he lived with me full-time 97. So 97, he moved in and lived with me full-time. So I raised my son on my own time. He was 4 years old and up. And my son used to have these outbursts. He used to get really upset, really mad. And in most cases, listening or watching a KISS video, a KISS concert, would calm him down, and he would just focus on that, get up, act like he's playing the guitar. He used to love acting like Paul Stanley. And he would also act like Gene Simmons sometimes. So he'd stick out his tongue and he would drool all over the floor. So just imagine a 4 or 5 year old kid drooling all over the floor, acting like Gene Simmons of KISS, pretending like it's blood. It was right hilarious. But anyway, so this one particular day, nothing worked. And I was about to pull all my hair out, which you could tell. And so I go into my my bedroom, into the closet, and whenever I was, I think, 11 years old in the 5th grade, on my birthday, my 11th birthday, my dad took me to, well, that weekend, me, my brother, my dad, stepmother, and stepsister went to Atlantic Beach, Morehead City, North Carolina. And we went into this store, and they sold stuffed animals, hand puppets, and stuff like that. So my dad told me, he says, find something that you want and get it. So I found a panda, and my panda is in the other room. And matter of fact, I'm gonna go get it. I'll be right back. Let me take off my mic. Okay, so I'm back. So keep in mind that this little girl, her name is Mindy. She's really old. So this is Mindy. And so I brought out Mindy, and she's dusty. She's been on the bedpost for the last 3 years. And but I brought out Mindy, and I had her in my shirt like this, and whenever I brought her out, my son was like, "Oh, what's that?" And so this is how I calmed my son down, was I would use Mindy. And my son would come and get me, and it was hilarious. So I fell asleep one time on the couch, and my son comes in yonder, grabs a hold of my hand, and sticks the panda on my hand, and I wake up and I've got Mindy looking at me, which Mindy looked a lot better than she does now. She's missing her nose. She's really dirty, and I really need to see if I can't get her cleaned up. But she used to have a squeaker in her too, but the squeaker's gone. But this is Mindy, and this is how I calm my son down. Well, since that day, pandas became my son's favorite animal. So several years later, whenever he was about 7, I got him this. And so he named this one Baby Mindy. And Baby Mindy is really dirty. He spilt something on her about maybe 10 years ago. And but he loved this panda. So whenever he passed away, I made sure that I got her back. So, but it's ironic how my son's favorite animal in the entire world is the panda bear. And the web browser that I named after my son and after my favorite band member, Eric Carr, was named after a red fox, supposedly. I'm sorry, not the red fox, but the red panda, or whatever the heck it is. But anyway, it's actually a panda bear that they supposedly named Firefox after. So it pretty much comes down to this. Mozilla, y'all owe me an apology. Y'all need to put my name where it belongs, as the one who gave that name. Okay, I'm the one who named Firefox, so y'all need to have me credited for that. So it really irritates me that Mozilla asked the community, asked their beta testers to help name the web browser, and then whenever they get the name they want, let's face it, Firefox is a really cool name. Would the web browser have done as well if it was a different name? Probably not. And so, I mean, the logo's cool. It's got a fox going around the world. I mean, or a panda, whatever the heck it is that they say they named it after. And but it has the red fox going around the world, and it's irritating, you know, to know that I gave them a name and then they just threw me out. No acknowledgement at all. Like, why? Why would you do that? Why would you ask the community? And usually whenever you ask somebody to help you name the program, once you find that name, you're like, oh, that's the name, that's what I want to use. You're happy, and you immediately acknowledge them. Thank you so much. We're going to put you in the credits. They didn't do that. Why didn't y'all do that? Why didn't y'all give me credit for something that I presented to y'all? It's not like I just thought of the name and just gave it. No, this was taken from something that means a lot to me. carrz-fox-fire.com, I've had that domain. I lost it for like 3 or 4 years. The person that took it wanted me to give them $10,000. And then I got to talking to the guy, and I told him the history behind the name, that it's named after my son and named after Eric Carr from Kiss. And kind of find out he just happened to be a Kiss fan. And then on that day, I went and I got my domain, and I paid like $9 for the first year. I named it, or I gave y'all the suggestion of a name that meant a lot to me. And so, I mean, why? It's just the question of why. Why would y'all do that? And I just wish that my dad, because he had been trying to get me to do this for years. I'm talking a long, long time. And then I really, really wish that my son was here to see this as well. But I want to thank everybody for watching this video, and I ask that you please share it and tag Firefox in it, tag Mozilla in it. Let them know what they did to me was wrong. And so yeah, y'all owe me, Mozilla. Y'all owe me big. Ain't no telling how much money that y'all made off my name. If y'all did not have my name, it would not have been as successful as it is today. It's as simple as that. I am Wayne Barron. Thank you for watching this video on my little space here on YouTube. I've got 3 channels that this is going to be put on, so whichever channel that it is on, you see the channel name right here above. But I'm going to say this and I'm going to end it. Make sure that you let everybody that you know and love, let them know how much that they mean to you, and how much you want to keep them in your life, because when they're gone, they're gone. And losing my son, I lost more than just my son that day. I lost a lot. And so, but anyway, everybody take care, and thanks for watching. I am Wayne Barron for whichever channel that I'm on. Y'all have a good one now. Bye-bye.